such a pleasure to be seeing you all in person. My goodness, we had this facility rented for this event back in 2020, and they very graciously said during the height of COVID, well, let's just move it to 2021. And then 2021 came around, and people still weren't traveling around this time of year. So we now have it in 2022, and I think it's just fantastic that so many of us can meet in person. So it's really, really fun, exciting, invigorating for all of us. So um, really just wanted to start and share a few things. Pat and I coordinated really closely, so I have introduction slides too, but suffice it to say, we're just grateful you can all be here. I'll kind of re-emphasize what Pat said. The conference is about all of you and about sharing information and such. We will do our best to be open and as transparent as we can in sharing information wherever we can, but we do need to hear from you, and we love to hear from you. I don't mind, none of us get offended if you bring problems to us. We'd rather hear about problems. We love hearing about the things that are all going well. That's nice. It's good kumbaya stuff, but we also like hearing about any problems we have, because that allows us to get better. We can fix them and hopefully do some really good things for all of you. I just wanted to comment a little bit about delivery partners too, in terms of the meeting. We wanted to welcome, in particularly these four organizations are really actively involved supporting us in our delivery activities. So, Atwell Engineering and Jesse and team have been working with us now for quite a few years, and you've attended quite a few PUGs since, LGE, I think, in Louisville when we first met. And they really started embracing AUD as an engineering firm and got involved with configuration and such, and have been doing a lot of innovative things. The Locana team, we're delighted to have you here, and really appreciate the commitment you've been making and building a team. And we have Power Engineers here, which we've been working with extensively over the last many years. A lot of our work has been on the substation side with power delivery team. So we're pleased to have them there. And then we have a great partner in UDC, just located not too far from here. So we're really appreciative of them. These four companies are doing quite a bit of work with us, and some of the others Pat mentioned too, but doing quite a bit of work in terms of delivery services. So we now are at a point where we have more of our partners delivering project activities than we do our own internal resources. So that's an interesting change for us. Getting our partners involved has been really important because we're bringing in extra resources. It helps us grow and scale. It also supports us as we start to expand more and more internationally, because we can't deliver all the demand that's coming out there. So we're building that community, and we appreciate your support. The other thing that we've done that's really kind of fun for us as a company is we haven't been able to meet all our employees together in one place. So we have quite a few SBS employees that are here today and over the course of the week. So we hope you get to know them. We had a little internal mingling get together last night, and many of them were able to be there. So you get to know the SBS folks. They are what make us a company. So thank all of you SBS folks that are here today. And Pat mentioned Autodesk. We have other interested parties that are visiting, some good friends and associates too. So thanks everybody for being here. I want to talk a little bit about the business, the SBS business, but maybe start out more in the broader industry context, a little bit of what's going on. I've been working with utilities since the 80s, and I was just telling our friends at Encore, that was really the first utility I worked with many years ago when I lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I have not seen the level of activity and the amount of spend and the different things going on in my career that I have now. That there's so much going on in terms of the investment. Edison Electric Institute has surveyed their customers, and the spend on construction builds is going to be about $140 billion this year, about the same next year. That's the most ever on record. So there's just a tremendous amount of infrastructure that's going in. And that's all designed by people like you. And so it's really been driving a lot of efficiencies and modernization and such in the design world. So it's driving a lot of what we're doing. The other thing we're seeing is that there's a really significant technology refresh going on. So back in the Y2K days, when things were also very busy for us, new systems were being installed, technology was being refreshed. Those systems have now been upgraded over the last 20 years, and we're really starting to see quite a few systems are being replaced and upgraded and such. And that change is really driving quite a bit of activity for us. So from a market standpoint, it's really pretty exciting. We are working quite a bit with Esri, and Esri has done a major refresh of their technology with their utility network. So we're getting actively involved in quite a few of those things too, and we really value our Esri partnership. But it's kind of a unique thing how that all has blossomed. 5 years ago, I was at Autodesk University. It was 5 years ago this coming November. And I was quite surprised to see the president of Autodesk, Andrew Anagnost, on the stage with the president of Esri, Jack Dangermond. And those two companies had been fierce rivals. Really, the GIS company trying to do more and more design within the GIS, the CAD company, geospatially enabling and adding CAD mapping constructs to their products. And so for a period of about 20 years, those two companies really competed quite a bit head to head. And they met on stage and they announced that for the good of their customers, they were going to start working together. And CAD was the focus tool. That's what people design with. GIS models and manages infrastructure and spatially enabled assets. And that really, over the last 5 years, has changed things. So I think we had some pretty good timing. I think we're in the right place at the right time as a company that is a geospatial integrator that's heavily involved with CAD and CAD-based design tools. And that's really been driving a significant amount of the growth that we've been experiencing. So we think it's been really good for the industry. We are seeing so many of you and so many of our other customers and prospective customers that have been doing their design within the GIS, and it's served them well for some kinds of projects, but it's also required heavily customized, custom written applications, custom integration and such. And that was the problem that we kind of set out to solve as the mission of SBS. So that's been a very interesting thing over the last 5 years. I think it's really just helped make our growth very, very, very successful. And when we look at how the business has performed, if you attended the virtual PUG last year, that little slide down at the bottom here is what I have presented, record revenues and, record growth and such. Well, we finished up 2021 the same way. 2022 is having very significant growth now. We've grown over 50% since same time last year. So, we're really experiencing some significant growth. And of course, our thanks to all of you. You're the reason for that, and we're very, very appreciative. Some of the things that are driving that are we have had quite a bit of customer growth. Our substation design suite, which you'll be getting some information about this week. We really don't focus on this. We have a separate user conference for substations. But we announced an AUD-based version, as Pat had mentioned. I'll just show you a little picture on that in just a few minutes. And that's really fueled quite a bit of growth. We have 5 very large utilities that are all in various forms of rollout right now, or a couple are just finishing their rollouts. And we've also had a lot of growth within the engineering community over the last year. So a lot of engineering firms are starting to use our tools, again, particularly on the substation side, but also a number of them on the AUD side. So we have over 70 engineering firms that use SBS products, which was really pretty nice. And then I'll just give you a quick introduction to AUD for telecommunications too. So when we look at AUD, let's see if I can actually get this to work too. So, as a product, when it came out and we acquired it from Autodesk, it was really a heavily an electric-focused product. And we've spent quite a bit of time in the early days stabilizing it, doing enhancements, but we also added some underlying capabilities to support constructs for the gas industry. and the water industry, particularly things like soft splits and a lot of the modeling, a lot of the object representations that really were necessary to facilitate sharing information with the GIS. So it's the first kind of major evolution we did with AUD was around building its ability to support gas and the appropriate networks and such. As you can see here, we also have done quite a bit to facilitate integration with utility network from Esri. So that was another key area. Then making the information available to dashboards and such. The most recent thing we did, I had just mentioned, was AUD for substations. So this is the same AUD product that you use, but where typically for distribution design, you lay things out in 2D and you have the ability to model and view things in 3D. On the substation side, we really changed some of the fundamentals of how you use AUD, and you can lay things out in 3D and do all the clearance checks and all those neat kinds of things, but then you can create 2D representations for any organization that wants to be working in the 2D world. So, that was a very significant change we did to AUD. And then when you look at what we can do once you get it into that environment, let me move over here. Hold on. Then in July of this year, we came out with AUD for communications, and we always had the ability to model communications assets and design communications assets in AUD. But when we added the 3D capabilities of AUD from substations to the traditional 2D, what we're able to actually do now is take AUD and do kind of like inside plant types of design. You could see that little rack that was there, along with the external outside plant kind of layout. So we have a very unique platform that's been developing with AUD, and it all uses the same AUD product. And so that same AUD has a lot of intelligence that we've built into the core product, but we are continuing to enhance it so that it can support all different kinds of design constructs, typically configured in the template. So we've really been focused on building out AUD more and more as a platform. And I'll comment too, if you're doing electrical distribution design, you may say, well, that's great. I still just do 2D design. We have actually been doing a lot of work to enhance the body of code, to stabilize it, to refactor. So when we acquired it in 2016, and during that time, since then, we've made over 750 improvements to the code. So we've increased the body of the code by about 30%, which is good. But we've also touched about 75, actually, almost 70% of the code has really been significantly modified. We've extensively refactored it, and we refactored it for a couple of reasons. One was to improve the quality, the stability of the code, but the other one was to provide a base for the code so we could grow the technology to see the kinds of cool things I just shared with you, with 3D placement and all those kinds of activities. So, that's a lot at kind of the business level of what we've been doing with AUD. Again, really focusing on just getting it to be a very stable design platform for anyone that's involved with networked utility infrastructure. So, and I just want to comment too on one of our, I think, really interesting initiatives, one that's perhaps the most important to me, and that is it's a word I don't think you'll find in a dictionary, but it's implementability. And when we first were involved with the AUD projects, they were really beastly, hard, complex projects to implement. And people would be doing all kinds of things called configuration files, and they were very, very complex to work with. We've really been focused on driving down the complexity of the implementation. We feel we'll be successful with all of you if we can leave and you can keep maintaining your product yourself. You can configure, you can do different things. We're trying to just drive out all forms of complexity. And as you sit in on some of the sessions this week, please keep that in mind. Sarah will be talking about configuration tomorrow. Listen in, ask questions, learn more about that. This is a really important initiative for us. So. And in terms of, I just want to pretty much wrap up here. Just a little bit about the company growth and what we're doing. We have, whenever you're in a business, you lay out your plan. What are you going to do? How are you going to grow? Those kinds of things. And we have kind of 5 areas that we're really focused on as the company continues to evolve. The first one has just been growing within our customer base. We have an excellent group of customers, and a lot of them are expanding their installations, or they're going from electric and adding gas, or different operating companies are expanding. We also have been attracting quite a new family of customers. Many of you are here today, so we appreciate that. And then, as you've seen, item 3 there is that we're really focused on growing into other verticals. So telecommunications is very important for us. And if you're in the electric industry, you may have quite a few telecommunications assets you need to manage today. And we also have just landed a pretty significantly sized water utility, and we're starting to do more and more work in the water industry, which tend to be smaller utilities here in the US. When we start going international, they're as big or bigger than the major electric utilities and gas utilities. So we have some very good offerings in that area that we haven't really been exploiting. And then we're continuing to develop new product enhancements. On the substation side, we've developed a really interesting framework for modeling these design assets as digital twins. And with all the work we've been doing with 3D BIM-based design, we're actually creating, every time you design something, a digital twin. So the big thing you want to do, though, is not just leave it in a DWG file and have it sit there until somebody needs to figure out where it is. So we've built a digital twin framework that's online. It leverages Autodesk's Forge platform. And we've also just continued to develop interoperability on the geospatial side too. So all this complex data can be modeled in some geospatial systems as pretty robust 3D assets. So we're really focusing on that. That's a key driver for modernization and advanced applications that we can be creating when we build this design information. And then the final area is our international expansion. So we are really pleased to have a number of international attendees, listeners. We are doing quite a bit of work in Australia. Our Australian market continues to grow. We've recently been selected by the Electric Service Board of Ireland, and we have activities in Eastern Europe that are going on. So that's kind of a fun thing going on for us. On the substation side, we have quite a bit of Latin American interest and a number of customers that are starting to join the fold in various Latin American countries. So from that standpoint, that's a little bit about where we're going as a company at a higher level. When you hear from Dave and when you hear from others, they'll give you all the excruciating details of cool stuff we're doing with the products. But I just wanted to give you kind of this high-level perspective on where we are, where we're going, and the different things we're doing. So Pat showed the agenda too. I don't think I'll comment on it other than, I think there's a lot of interesting information, and I'll just reiterate, we want to hear from you. I think that's what will make it interesting for us. I also, in the spirit of the PUG, would love to get some questions from you too, and maybe we can just chat for a few minutes. In general, though, we want to hear from you. We want to improve. You won't hurt our feelings if you share something that you don't like or isn't working. Those are, again, just opportunities for us to do better. So with that, I'll kind of pause and see, does anyone have any questions for us? Questions about SBS or the business or where we're going or anything else? Yeah, great question. So John Marie asked, what are we doing? Where are we going with integration? And again, our background has always been as an integrator. That's how we kind of backed into the design world. And yes, integration with engineering analysis tools is important to us. So we do have a product level integration today with SpiderCalc, and that framework is something that we are prepared to expand to work with OCalc. And so, that's an area where we haven't developed the fully supported product, but we view any customer that wants to use OCalc would be prepared to support that and expand the process to product to do that. The other area you asked is PLS CAD. And I cannot tell you how many organizations come to us and ask us various things about PLS CAD and how we work with it and can work with it and such. And we've done quite a bit of investigation on this. We have the ability to do basic information exchange with PLS CAD, and we would love to do more. As you're familiar, if you're familiar with PLS CAD, that the APIs are rather limited. So there's an API up front for ingesting survey information and such, and that is one API that can be used. Then they have the ability to export into KMZ 3D visualization. Again, we can exploit those. We have probably about 4 or 5 organizations that are asking us to do more with it. We've met at senior levels with the PLS CAD team, and unfortunately, it's a little hard unless their APIs really change for us to do the kind of integration that you see us do with like a SpiderCalc or something. So we would love to do more. We're sorting out how best to do that. If you do need some level of integration with PLS CAD, please reach out to us, because we have a couple of active projects where you'll see we're going to be doing more and more PLS CAD integration, but we are limited to the extent of their APIs today. Now, as you may have heard, I guess it was early this year, PLS CAD was acquired by Bentley Systems, and we've had a cordial relationship with the Bentley folks, and we're hopeful that they may be opening the product up quite a bit more, and so that may improve things better in that area. Yeah, no problem. So, Jesse. The comment from Jesse was for our remote listeners. What are you looking for in OCalc? I will just direct you to a very nice video we have that shows our SpiderCalc integration. It's on the SBS YouTube channel. And if you look at the interaction, it is a two-way interaction that we have with Spida. So the OCalc integration would be essentially this, very similar. And so you can be designing, you can send all those design details to SpiderCalc. In the background, it will run the calculations. Then it will send back a simple, red, yellow, green kind of result. If you have something that you want to investigate further, fix, whatever, you can go into, in this case, SpiderCalc. You can adjust heights, you can, connection points, whatever else, and it will recalculate for you. And then those results get sent right back to AUD. So there is a two-way integration. It's again with right. Andy Street just commented too. You could relocate guys, shift their locations around in Spida, and those results get sent back to AUD and presented in the AUD design tool. So yeah, you can move and create. Yeah, good. Okay, other questions? Thanks. Good discussion. Andy. Who won the golf? I did. Yeah, no, I survived. I think I won just by surviving myself. But Pat, maybe you'll announce that later. But so yeah, more to come on the golf. So good. Other questions? This is good. We appreciate the questions. So.
Hi, Dennis. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we'll present our story tomorrow from Hydro One's perspective, but I know that AUD is primarily a design tool. However, with our situation, it's different. There's sort of a costing element to it as well. And I was curious if there's any thought or any movement towards developing more of a not cost-based solution, but more of a cost-based interface, or enabling that costing attributes to be passed over to whatever system it is. Leaving AUD obviously primarily as design, but sort of enabling those, I don't want to say unique situations like ours, but where they have those types of elements involved, and being able to, to really enable that and to make that even better. I'm not sure if that makes sense, or has there been any discussion on that?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Pat would be a good one because he's been involved with our our implementation all along. But
Yeah. Pat, do you want to comment? And I don't know, is that mic hooked up to our remote listeners? Okay, yeah, so we'll want Pat to comment on the mic here.
No. So the core SBS philosophy is we're not going to build something that we can integrate to. But the longer answer to that is we have implemented and can implement a cost estimation out of AUD. So if you have a CU or if you have even labor, and then you already know in AUD this is going to be construction, and we can write a rule that says, well, if I have the cost in that labor and I know I'm going into rocky soil or a submerged, I know hydro, sometimes you have to build a road out to where you're going, and you can calculate those costs, we can do a cost estimate out of AUD, and we will always caveat it as a cost estimate. We've implemented that. That way you don't have to go back and forth with SAP. We don't recommend that because SAP or Maximo or Infor or NISC is your system of record for finance. But if you want to do it in AUD, we can create a cost estimate out of all that calculations. But we just don't, well, if it's in this tax district, in this tax district, you're just moving the complexity of SAP or Maximo down into your design tool when it's already there. Same like with SpiderCalc. Why don't we just put all that stuff in AUD? Because it's in SpiderCalc, and I can implement it to SpiderCalc much simpler than replicating it all in AUD. So that's the core philosophy that we try to follow.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question too, and we really appreciate the complexity you have in Ontario too, in terms of how you calculate your costs and such. So, but that is our general philosophy. We keep the tool very flexible. So yeah, thanks. That's a great question.